This is Tread Boldly, Leadership Lessons from the Saints, with Father Nathan Cromly.
My name is Father Nathan Cromly. I'm the president of the St. John Institute, and this is Tread Boldly, Leadership Lessons from the Saints. If there's one thing we all know we need as leaders, it's the ability to see what's coming. And yet, if there's one challenge every leader faces, is that we don't know what's coming. Leaders need vision, and perfect vision is impossible. In many ways, those who are at the top resemble someone on a ship standing at the top of a mast in the crow's nest, looking as far as they can see to see what the sea can bring them. But in the end, no one can predict what might happen. And so great leaders learn to expect the unexpected, to be prepared, that in the end, the only constant thing there is in life is change. And for this reason, the best made plans are dynamic, plans that are able to change. The same was true for St. Joseph. His life demonstrates an amazing level of flexibility. Just think, for example, of what happened the night that Jesus was born. Not only did he have to wrap him in swaddling clothes and lay him in a feeding trough amidst animals because there wasn't enough room for him where the travelers lodge, but then, once that was taken care of, he found himself surrounded by shepherds singing the praises of God. We read in the Gospel of St. Luke, chapter 2, verse 8, "And in the same region there were shepherds out in the field, keeping watch over their flock by night. They saw angels proclaiming that Jesus was born." And verse 15, "When the angels went away from them into heaven, the shepherds said to one another, 'Let us go over to Bethlehem and see this thing that has happened, which the Lord has made known to us.'" Now notice, nowhere in this story does God let St. Joseph know that he's going to invite shepherds to come over and see his newborn son. God does not ask St. Joseph's permission before he moves in St. Joseph's life, and St. Joseph has to be ready for that. He has to expect the unexpected because our God is a God of the marvelous. And in a real way, our lives don't really belong to us in totality anyway. The moment we've surrendered them to Christ in our baptism was the moment that we allowed Christ to use us as his instrument. And therefore, there's always something about our life which is bigger than anything we could control. And leading as a Christian, we have to be able to incorporate that also into our vision of things. The shepherds made haste and found Mary and Joseph and the baby lying in a manger. And when they saw it, they made known the saying that had been told to them concerning this child, and all who heard it wondered at what the shepherds told them. And just like that, St. Joseph went from being rejected by his own kin and in the most difficult of circumstances to suddenly having his story proclaimed to everyone in the region. He went from his number one job being to protect the Virgin Mary in her solitude with Christ and to allow her to be one with him in the intimacy of that manger, to then having to lead in circumstances where everyone knew everything that was going on. How does St. Joseph know that he was supposed to welcome the shepherds? How does St. Joseph know how to handle the activities of the shepherds around his newborn son? And then afterwards, how does St. Joseph know what to do when everyone in the region was being told what God had done? We know almost nothing about St. Joseph's response, but perhaps that silence is itself telling. St. Joseph allowed the events to run their course, even though this meant that his own life was impacted in ways which he might not have foreseen or which he might not have preferred. After all, who wouldn't want to be alone with the Virgin Mary and the child Jesus, there adoring him and receiving the love that Jesus came to bring us? Who wouldn't want to keep that mystery intact in all of its beauty and all of its greatness? And yet, by allowing the shepherds to come, he allowed God to do something greater, to invite the whole world to come into that adoration and the intimacy of Mary and Jesus to then be shared with everyone. It took a humble leadership from St. Joseph to allow God to lead the way God wanted in the unexpected and also in the uninvited. God is in charge of our lives, and God is in charge of the mystery of Jesus. And we who lead in Christ have to get used to letting God do with us what he wants. God has a greater plan for our lives than anything we can imagine. He wanted more than just St. Joseph to adore his son. He wanted the whole world. And so he unexpectedly invited the shepherds and reminded St. Joseph to expect the unexpected. And like him, we have to let go of our own plans and tread boldly where he wants us to go.
Oh, I love it.